So in the part one of this video, we spoke about inducing flow. We spoke about the fact that flow is one of the key components that we need to try to get ourselves into the state of to be able to work at our optimum efficiency and optimal productivity. Love that word, optimal productivity. Essentially, when you're in a state of flow, you are completing a task that is of a challenge that you are comfortable with, but also using skills that you feel like you are able to implement. So if a task is too challenging, then you're going to be disheartened, you're going to disengage, and you're going to just feel like you're not able to do it, that you're a failure. If a task is too easy for you, so on the other side, if a task is too easy for you, you're not going to want to pull through, you're going to kind of feel a bit bored. So there needs to be a good balance between the two. So in the last video, we spoke a lot about the conditions of flow and the characteristics of flow and exactly what flow is. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how to induce flow. So how do we actually get ourselves into that state? So I've spoken about what it is, what the state is, and loads of you guys commented and mentioned that, you were in flow when you were watching the video, which I love. That means I was engaging you guys well. So thank you for that. But let's talk about how to actually induce yourself into the state of flow. Okay, so the first thing you need to think about is focusing your body and focusing your mind. Now, this is probably the hardest component of trying to get yourself into flow because we are so inundated by distractions. In this day and age, we're sitting down, we're trying to get something done, we're trying to be in a state of flow. We have our phones, we have notifications, we've got our emails, and even just mentally, we have so many things running through our minds constantly. In fact, we're battling our own minds, we're battling our own thoughts to get ourselves into that state of flow. And so it's really challenging. And the first thing, when you're sitting there, you're thinking, right, I want to get into the state of flow and I want to get something done. The first thing is to kind of reconfigure, is to tell yourself that this next half an hour, this 1 hour, the next 2 hours, I am going to completely focus on the task at hand. Now, yes, there'll be things that come into your mind, and the one thing that I find is that when I want to focus, that's when the thing that I've been delaying for the past 6 months and I've completely forgot about, that's when it comes into my mind, right? It's inevitable. That's what happens. But you need to try to battle those things out. So one way that you can do that is by having a little list or a little piece of paper on the side. And so when a thought comes in, that's a thought that you shouldn't be thinking about in that moment, write it down, put it aside. This will battle any distractions out of the way. So you're in flow, you've got your notes out, you've got your work, you've got a laptop open, and then you're like, oh yeah, I need to book that appointment for my dentist. That's not something you need to think about right now. Just write on the side, appointment for dentist. And then you come to it later. And that way you've addressed the thought, because if you don't address the thought, it will come back. So you've addressed the thought and then you write it down and you get it out of the way. And that's one way to battle. And so you really want to think about ways that you can enhance and optimize for focusing your mind and focusing your body as well. So your actual self. And I think in general, we should be practicing mindful techniques. So meditation and just being a bit more mindful in general. It will help you as a person have those times during the day when you have no other thoughts, and this will help you in the long run to be able to get into the flow state a lot easier. So one thing that, for example, one thing that we do, we pray 5 times a day, and those times are times where we are in that mindful state. And so if you don't pray 5 times a day, or you're not practicing a religion, then you can very, very easily do meditation. And there's there's podcasts, there's audiobooks you can listen to that try to get you into that state where you're really not listening or thinking about anything else. And if you've never done that before, you will struggle a little bit to do that in flow state. So another technique you can do is use a timer. So telling yourself, for the next 20 minutes, for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be in a flow state. And you've set yourself a timer. So you're now going to say, right, nothing else matters in this half an hour except what I'm doing in this moment. And hopefully that will help. The second is by leveraging your memory. So trying to use what you already know. Now, ideally, when you're completing a task, it's a task and you're trying to get into a flow state, it's a task that you're comfortable doing that has some challenge. So it's not a task that you're trying for the first time, you're not trying to learn something new. It's a task whereby you're using what you already know and you're trying to build on that, or you're implementing something new, but at least you're leveraging your memory and you're using what you already have up here. So when thinking about flow state and trying to plan for times where you want to get into the flow state, choose an opportunity whereby you think and you know you're going to be using some skill that you already have, and it'll be a lot easier because you're not trying to figure things out. Rather, you can just get into that flow state and just get on with it. Okay, as I was mentioning earlier, the next is eliminating distractions. Now, to eliminate distractions, it is a very easy solution. Just get rid of the distractions. If it's your phone, turn it off. Put it on airplane mode, put it on do not disturb. If it's your laptop, put it on do not disturb. Identify what those distractions are. For the most part, it's our technology. Turn those things off, silence them. And then everything else, like if those distractions are out of the way, then you're minimizing the opportunity of something breaking your flow state. Think of your flow state as something really precious. It's something that's so valuable, and you're allowing a text message to break your flow state. Like, this is your valuable half an hour. Like, you built yourself up to get into this flow state. You're working on something really important, and someone says, oh my gosh, have you seen this TikTok? No, we don't break my flow state, right? So just try to eliminate those distractions. Try to make sure that there's no opportunity for anything negative. When I say negative, I mean anything that's not what you're doing right now to enter your flow state. This is your barrier. This is your safe haven, your flow state. You're in it. Just eliminate all distractions to make sure that nothing gets broken. The next way to try to induce the flow state is by lifelong learning. So ensuring that, like, whatever you're doing during your day, you're having some input where you're learning something new, right? So not necessarily within the flow state itself, but just within your day, within your week, within your year. What are you learning? How are you improving yourself as a person? How are you trying to get yourself to a position where you are going to be better than you were yesterday? Going to be better than you were last week? Like, what are you doing? Because these are all things that will help to get yourselves into the flow state when you want to get there, when you want to get some work done. If you know that you are continually improving, if you know that you are building as a person, you're able to then say, right, okay, in flow state, when I'm trying to get some work done, I know that this is going to be beneficial for me in the long run, right? So that could be you read books. That could be that you listen to podcasts that are learning, that help you learn something. And it could mean you join a course, or you watch YouTube videos that try to help you learn something. Whatever it might be, just having that sort of lifelong learning, that mentality that education doesn't stop when you leave formal institutions. Education is lifelong. Learning is lifelong. I'm not enrolled in the university right now. I'm not a student at the moment, but I'm always learning something. I'm always trying to pick up knowledge, and I'm always trying to ideally implement that knowledge within some aspect of my life. And so I know that when I get into flow state, because I'm always learning something, my mind is used to picking up things. My mind is used to learning and adding knowledge and being a better me. And so in that moment when I'm trying to get into that flow state, it's natural for my brain to switch off from everything else and pick up and just focus on one thing and get into that, like, really deep work. I think it's really key to always ask yourself, like, what am I learning right now? Like, what is adding to me as a person? Not my career, but me as a person. What am I doing to implement anything new and to sort of support that lifelong learning? So there's this quote that I really resonate with, and it says that the enjoyment of flow happens at the boundary of boredom and anxiety. So by that, it means that when you're in that flow state, when you're really enjoying it, that's when you're not bored and you're not overly anxious, but you're somewhere in the middle. So you're getting things done and you're, working on it, but you're also in this slight panic state, like need to get this done. And that is where you really enjoy it, because when I say enjoy, I mean that's when you're really like working and powering through it. And that when you come out of the flow state, you'll realize, I was super productive. And that's because I was really getting things done. And to be able to get into that state, the last tip that I'm going to give today is that you need to set yourself goals that set yourself up to get into that flow state and induce that flow state. Now, what do I mean by this? And we hear so much about goals on YouTube, on social media, like, have goals, write to-do lists, blah, blah, blah. And like, of course, goals are really important, but goals can either set you up for success or they can set you up for failure. And I know this because I have written really bad goals that don't set me up for success, and in fact they lead me to procrastination and feeling quite crap about myself, really. So a good goal would be something like complete the presentation for this topic presentation, and complete 5 slides based, the introduction, the methods, like being really specific. A bad goal would be finish presentation. right? Just finish the presentation. Firstly, you need to do the research, you need to design the presentation, you need to think about the contents, the formatting, the structure, and everything that's even gonna go inside it. That takes time. So when you sit there and you're like, right, I wanna get into the flow state right now, where do you even begin? Like, where do you even start? But if you were to have a really specific goal and your idea is, right, in this hour, I'm going to research this thing and I'm going to format and complete these 3 slides, you know exactly what you need to do and you can get right to it. And that is when you end up in the flow state, because you know what your goal is and you know where you're meant to be, and you know, like, there's no thinking required. And that is essentially what you want to do. And that's what I meant earlier when I meant by when I said leverage memory. So you're not thinking deeply, you're not thinking and trying to be creative in that moment. You're just getting things done. Like, you're just working on what needs to be worked on. So preparation is really key to help you get into that flow state. Yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you were able to kind of pick up a few tips for inducing the flow state. And this flow state is really where you're just, I want to say zen, in the sense that you're work zen. You know, you're in this state where you're just getting it done, and there's no distractions, and you're, you know, at the cusp of challenge, but also learning, but also working things out. You're emotionally, like, I want to say you're not emotionally there because you're not really thinking. You shouldn't really be thinking too deeply. You're just in that zone, and you know when you're in flow state, because when you come out of it, there's just like this like feeling of like, whoa, that was really good. And it's hard to get into flow state. I feel like I can't remember the last time I was in flow state, probably like a week. Like, it's not very often. I work every day, but I'm not in flow state every day. It's quite difficult to get into that state because you really have to set up your characteristics and your surrounding quite well to be able to get into that state and stay into that state. But when you do get there, oof, it is chef's kiss. But yeah, let me know if you have got into flow state before, and like what you've experienced. Like, what were your emotions when you were in that flow state, and did you notice that there was a specific characteristic, or there was a specific element of your setup or what you're working on that helped you get into that flow state? And have you like been able to get into that flow state again? it takes time to work it out, but hopefully this video helps a little bit with trying to work it out a little bit. But yeah, let me know what you think, and I will see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.